Imagine a world where it is possible to access the thoughts, memories, and knowledge of all human minds. Such a profound connection could radically transform how we live and interact. We would no longer rely solely on words or visible actions, entering an era of unprecedented direct understanding. The barrier between the individual and the collective would disappear, and our decisions would be based on a shared flow of information. However, this reality would also bring ethical challenges, questioning the limits of privacy. How prepared are we to live in a world without secrets? This idea seems like something out of a science fiction book, but recent studies show it might be more plausible than we think. Researchers suggest that the Earth's geomagnetic field could act as a natural channel for transmitting information between human brains. The concept of a mental internet is already being explored in scientific theories and practical experiments. Although it seems far-fetched, there is a scientific basis to believe we may be at the dawn of this revolution. Is our mental capacity underutilized, requiring only the right technology to unlock it? Global mental connectivity would also change how we perceive our emotions and feelings. Imagine a world where, instead of explaining your pain or anguish, they would be immediately understood by someone else. Empathy would no longer be an exercise but a natural state. On the other hand, conflicts would arise when someone's intentions were fully revealed. This could transform relationships, both personal and social. There would be no way to hide truths or maintain political and economic secrets. Would we be ready for such transparency? If all of humanity shared thoughts, how would it affect scientific and cultural progress? Discoveries made in one corner of the world could be instantly accessed in another, accelerating innovations. But what about the problems of control? Who would ensure this technology wouldn't be monopolized? Historically, our society struggles with concentrated power, and this tool would represent one of the greatest powers ever known. The ethical discussion surrounding the use of this global connection would be inevitable. Imagining this future raises unavoidable questions. What if someone refused to share their mental information? Would there be divisions between connected and disconnected people? Who would control this connection? These questions make us reflect on the balance between the transformative potential of technology and the risks it brings. Like any major breakthrough, global mental connectivity could be a path to freedom or a new form of oppression. Ultimately, the idea of global mental connectivity touches on something profound: our quest for belonging and understanding. We are social beings by nature, and this tool could take our interaction to an unimaginable level. However, for it to work, we would need to review not just our technologies but also our concepts of ethics, privacy, and freedom. Perhaps the greatest challenge is not technical but human, being ready for a world where I and we become inseparable. Great human advancements, like the telephone and video, were initially seen as impossible. Imagine how someone in the 18th century would react if told they could hear the voice of someone across the ocean. The idea would be dismissed as fantasy or even magic. But today, the telephone is part of our daily lives. These inventions show that what seems impossible today could be commonplace tomorrow. The same might happen with global mental connectivity. Another fascinating example is photography. Before its invention, only artists could visually record moments and people. When the camera was introduced to the public, many considered it a passing curiosity, something that would never become essential. Centuries later, we are surrounded by images, from digital albums to social media. This makes us reflect on how initially absurd ideas can shape entire cultures over time. Moreover, the impact of technological innovations is not limited to what they do but also to how they change our relationships. For example, the radio not only brought information but also created cultural connections. Broadcast programs united people, influenced social movements, and redefined global communication. If something as simple as radio waves achieved this, imagine the impact of a technology that directly connects brains. These innovations also show that while advancements are met with enthusiasm, they always generate fear and resistance. The automobile, for example, faced criticism for potentially destroying jobs related to horses and carriages. Today, cars are an essential part of modern life, but they also brought new challenges like pollution and accidents. Similarly, global mental connectivity would likely face debates about benefits versus risks. Looking to the past, we see that the acceptance of new technologies depends on their integration into society. Inventions like electricity were initially limited to a few places, but as their utility grew, they became universal. Global mental connectivity would follow a similar path, starting as something restricted and advancing to become indispensable. However, careful thought would be needed about its impact. Like the telephone and video, global mental connectivity is an idea that seems impossible but has the potential to redefine how we live. The greatest lesson from the history of technological innovations is that they not only solve problems but also create new ones. The question is not just if this technology will be possible, but how we will deal with its ethical, social, and emotional implications. The Earth's geomagnetic field is an invisible but constant force that influences everything around us. From compasses to bird migrations, it regulates essential aspects of life on the planet. What few know is that it may also be deeply connected to the functioning of our brains. Scientists are exploring the idea that this field could serve as a natural communication channel between human minds. If true, we are on the brink of discovering a new dimension of connection. This theory suggests that our brains, like small electromagnetic generators, interact continuously with the geomagnetic field. Dr. Michael Persinger, a pioneer in this field, proposed that this interaction could create an invisible network linking all minds. Imagine the geomagnetic field as a giant storage cloud where thoughts and memories could be recorded and accessed. Although it sounds fantastical, studies indicate this possibility is more real than we imagine. To understand better, it is important to think of the geomagnetic field as a bridge. Just as radio waves connect devices, the field could connect brains. Research shows that events in the Earth's magnetic field, such as solar storms, directly impact human behavior, including increased anxiety and changes in sleep patterns. This suggests our brains are already sensitive to this force. The question is, can we use it intentionally to communicate? This idea of collective connection is not new. Ancient cultures believed in a universal mind, where everyone was interconnected by something greater. Modern science is beginning to validate this concept with measurements and studies. Recent research shows that under specific conditions, such as low geomagnetic activity, people seem to have more intense intuitive experiences, including premonitions and a sense of connection with other minds. This makes us wonder, could this field be the key to a new level of consciousness? The impact would be revolutionary. Imagine if we could access memories or knowledge from others simply by aligning our brains to the geomagnetic field. This could transform education, creativity, and even conflict resolution. However, it would also bring ethical challenges, such as controlling and manipulating this information. After all, every powerful technology carries the risk of abuse. If the geomagnetic field can indeed serve as a communication channel between brains, it would not only redefine our understanding of the mind, but also of humanity. It would lead us to a profound reflection on who we are and how we relate to one another. Would we be ready to abandon the notion of individuality in favor of a sense of unity? Or would this connection make us even more aware of our need to protect privacy and freedom of thought? Dr. Michael Persinger was a central figure in the study of the interaction between the human brain and magnetic fields. He believed our brains are not only influenced by external forces, but also have the ability to actively interact with them. His experiments aimed to prove that geomagnetic fields can create a global connection between human minds. With decades of research, he left a legacy that continues to intrigue scientists and visionaries. One of Persinger's most well-known experiments involved using the so-called God helmet. This device, equipped with small solenoids, emitted controlled magnetic fields directly into the brains of participants. The result? Many reported experiences of connection with something greater, such as sensations of telepathy or heightened perception. This suggested that the human brain can be tuned to access information beyond usual perception. Persinger also explored the idea that the Earth's geomagnetic field functions as a giant database. According to him, the human brain can operate as a receiver, capturing information recorded in this field. Studies showed that during altered states of consciousness, such as deep sleep, brain activity aligns more easily with specific magnetic frequencies. This increases the possibility that memories or ideas can be shared between minds connected to the same field. Furthermore, Dr. Persinger pointed out that cosmic events, such as solar storms, can directly influence our emotions and thoughts. He observed that during periods of high geomagnetic activity, there is an increase in impulsive behaviors and collective mood changes. This connection suggests that our brains are naturally affected by invisible forces around us, even if we do not yet fully understand how this happens. Persinger's studies also paved the way for ethical discussions. If our brains can be influenced by external fields, could thoughts or emotions be manipulated on a large scale? This question raises concerns about the use of technologies based on his discoveries. Like any scientific advancement, Persinger's work presents both opportunities and risks that need to be carefully evaluated. Finally, Persinger's legacy invites us to explore the human potential more deeply. He believed the mind is a powerful, underutilized tool, and that understanding its connection to the universe is the next step in human evolution. His research not only challenged scientific conventions, but also encouraged us to dream of a future where the mind and cosmos are in perfect harmony. Although many people do not realize it, the Earth's magnetic field has a direct influence on our behavior and mental health. Studies show that during periods of high geomagnetic activity, such as solar storms, there is a significant increase in cases of anxiety, insomnia, and even violent behaviors. This phenomenon suggests that our brains are deeply connected to this invisible force that permeates our planet. Researchers like Dr. Michael Persinger were pioneers in investigating this connection. He believed the Earth's magnetic field could act as a master rhythm that regulates our brains. Just as biological clocks follow cycles of light and darkness, our thoughts and emotions may be influenced by magnetic variations. This would explain why some people report feelings of restlessness or euphoria at certain times, even without an apparent reason. Moreover, the magnetic field seems to play a crucial role in altered states of consciousness. Experiments show that during periods of low geomagnetic activity, people tend to report more intuitive experiences, such as premonitions or feelings of connection with other minds. These states suggest that when the field is more stable, our brains may operate at frequencies that facilitate nonverbal or even telepathic communication. Animals are also deeply influenced by the magnetic field. Bird migration, for example, depends on their ability to detect magnetic changes for navigation. This reinforces the idea that living beings are naturally attuned to this force. If other species already use the magnetic field for communication and orientation, why would it be different for humans? Perhaps we are only beginning to rediscover something that has always been within our reach. This magnetic influence also raises questions about the impact of modern technology. Wi-Fi networks, cell towers, and other electronic devices create artificial magnetic fields that may interfere with the natural harmony between our brains and the Earth's field. Could this be affecting our mental health or intuitive capacity? Recent studies indicate it might be, and it is something we need to urgently investigate. Exploring the relationship between the magnetic field and human behavior helps us better understand who we are and how we interact with the world around us. This invisible force is not just a scientific curiosity, but an essential part of what makes us human. As we delve deeper into this connection, we are discovering new ways to understand our emotions, thoughts, and place in the cosmos. One of the most fascinating aspects of the relationship between the Earth's magnetic field and the human mind lies in dreams. Researchers have discovered that under conditions of low geomagnetic activity, people are more likely to experience vivid and interconnected dreams. In experiments conducted by scientists like Stanley Krippner, volunteers reported dreams that seemed to reflect images observed by others in different locations. These studies suggest that during sleep, our brains may tune in to information from other minds. Dreaming is a state where brain activity significantly changes, allowing the right and left hemispheres to operate in greater harmony. This creates a unique window for intuitive and symbolic communication. During these states, when the geomagnetic field is stable, brains seem more likely to access external information. Although the exact mechanisms are not yet understood, these phenomena indicate a deeper connection between mind and environment. Krippner conducted intriguing experiments in which one person, while sleeping, received unconscious transmissions from another person in a different location. For example, a volunteer observed images in a room while another slept in an isolated environment. Surprisingly, the dreams often reflected the observed images. This reinforces the idea that during deep relaxation states, human brains are more receptive to the exchange of information. Additionally, studies show that geomagnetic activity directly influences sleep quality. During solar storms, when the Earth's magnetic field is disturbed, there are reports of insomnia and confusing dreams. In contrast, nights of low geomagnetic activity are associated with clearer and more organized dreams. This suggests that magnetic field stability creates an ideal environment for minds to tune in to shared frequencies. These experiments raise intriguing questions. Are our dreams merely reflections of the subconscious, or could they contain information captured from other minds? What if science could develop technologies that amplified this connection? Imagine a tool capable of transforming our dreams into a conscious communication channel, enabling us to exchange ideas and emotions while we sleep. Science is only beginning to explore this territory. Reflecting on these studies, we realize that dreams may be more than just mental rest. They are a portal to dimensions of interaction we do not yet fully understand. This invisible connection makes us question the limits between the individual and the collective and challenges us to view sleep as a moment of unexplored human potential. What more could we discover if we paid attention to these subtle signals? One of the most intriguing aspects of the Mind-Earth connection is the 7 Hz resonance, a natural frequency shared by the Earth's geomagnetic field and the human brain. This frequency, known as the Schumann resonance, is generated by the space between the Earth's surface and the ionosphere, creating a stable pattern that permeates the planet. What makes it special is that this same frequency is also observed in the human brain during states of relaxation and deep meditation. This synchronicity between Earth and the brain suggests a natural connection that can be consciously harnessed. Studies show that when brain activity aligns with the 7 Hz resonance, people experience greater mental clarity, heightened intuition, and even extrasensory perceptions. It is as if the brain, vibrating at this frequency, tunes into larger information available in the Earth's magnetic field. This phenomenon opens doors to a deeper understanding of human capabilities. The 7 Hz frequency is also linked to moments of creativity and inspiration. Many artists and scientists report that their most brilliant ideas arise in states of deep relaxation when the brain is more receptive. This may indicate that by connecting to this frequency, we access a larger information field, perhaps even shared with other minds. Science is still investigating how this works, but the evidence is promising. Interestingly, this resonance also appears to influence memory and learning. Experiments show that exposing people to auditory or visual stimuli adjusted to the 7 Hz frequency improves information retention and focus. This suggests that this frequency not only connects our minds to the Earth, but can also be used to enhance cognitive performance. Imagine the impact of applying this knowledge in education or mental health. On the other hand, disruptions to this frequency can cause discomfort. During geomagnetic storms, when the 7 Hz resonance is disturbed, many people report headaches, mental confusion, and anxiety. This shows how much we depend on this invisible stability to maintain mental and emotional balance. Awareness of this connection can help us develop strategies to minimize these effects and live in greater harmony with our environment. The 7 Hz resonance reminds us that we are part of a larger system where mind and nature are intrinsically linked. This seemingly simple frequency is a bridge between the physical and metaphysical, between the individual and the collective. It invites us to explore new forms of interaction and rediscover our place in the world. Perhaps by better understanding this synchronicity, we can reach unprecedented levels of connection and understanding. The idea that the human brain emits light may seem strange at first glance, but studies show that, at microscopic levels, it truly happens. During certain mental states, such as meditation or deep concentration, the brain releases photons, particles of light that carry information. These emissions, though invisible to the naked eye, can be detected by advanced instruments and reveal a fascinating aspect of brain function. Dr. Michael Persinger was one of the first to investigate photon emission by the brain. He believed these luminous signals are not merely a byproduct of neural activities, but may play a role in communication between brains. Just as radio waves transmit information, photons emitted by the brain may carry thoughts and memories. This raises the possibility that our minds are constantly broadcasting to the environment around us. These emissions are more intense during moments of creativity or intuitive perception. Experiments show that people deeply focused on an idea or visualization exhibit greater photon release. This light is not merely wasted energy. It could be part of a larger system of information exchange. If we could amplify or direct these emissions, we might create new forms of nonverbal communication. Additionally, studies suggest that these photons may be linked to the phenomenon of quantum entanglement between brains. When two minds are in synchronized states, photons emitted by one brain may influence the other, creating a kind of luminous bridge between them. Although this idea is still being tested, initial results are promising and show we are only beginning to understand the potential of these emissions. These discoveries also prompt reflection on how the environment may influence photon emission by the brain. External conditions, such as natural light and magnetic fields, seem to amplify this activity. This suggests the human mind is deeply connected to its surrounding environment in a constant cycle of mutual influence. Perhaps the key to unlocking the full potential of this interaction lies in harmonizing the mind with nature. Photon emission by the brain reminds us that, even in its most basic state, the human mind is a source of light, literally and metaphorically. These tiny luminous signals, almost imperceptible, may contain valuable clues about how we connect with each other and the universe. Science is only beginning to illuminate this field, but the implications are vast and fascinating. Quantum entanglement is one of the most intriguing concepts in modern physics, describing how particles can remain connected in such a way that altering the state of one instantly affects the other, even over vast distances. This idea, which seemed confined to the subatomic world, is now being explored concerning the human brain. Researchers like Dr. Michael Persinger suggest that our brains can create a form of entanglement, enabling thoughts and emotions to be shared beyond physical boundaries. Experiments conducted by Persinger and others demonstrate that when two people share the same magnetic field, their brain activities can align. This was shown in situations where stimuli in one brain resulted in almost identical responses in another, even when participants were in separate rooms. This type of connection transcends traditional communication and suggests that quantum entanglement could underpin unexplained human interactions. Brain entanglement could explain phenomena long considered mystical, such as telepathy. For example, studies have documented cases where identical twins experienced simultaneous sensations or thoughts, even when physically distant. These events seem to occur during moments of strong emotional bonds, suggesting that quantum entanglement may be facilitated by deep emotional connections. Another fascinating aspect is how these connections can be affected by external factors. During geomagnetic storms, noise in the Earth's magnetic field can interfere with brain alignment, weakening entanglement. Conversely, under calm geomagnetic conditions, brain resonance is more intense, allowing clearer information exchanges. These factors highlight a delicate relationship between the mind, environment, and magnetic field. This discovery raises important questions about the potential of brain entanglement. Could we use this connection to create a new form of communication, independent of words or devices? And, more importantly, how can we ensure that such technology, if developed, is used ethically? Brain quantum entanglement offers a glimpse into the future, but also presents significant challenges. Studying brain entanglement reminds us that the human mind is far more complex and interconnected than we imagine. These invisible but real connections challenge us to reconsider the limits of science, technology, and even spirituality. By exploring this phenomenon, we are not just uncovering new ways to interact, but also unraveling the mystery of consciousness itself. Ingo Swann was one of the greatest proponents of remote viewing, a skill that allows perceiving information about distant locations without direct physical interaction. Working with scientists and agencies like the CIA, Swann demonstrated that the human brain can capture non-local information, challenging the boundaries of conventional perception. His abilities and experiments are a milestone in exploring human mental potential. One of Swann's most famous cases involved describing a specific target while isolated in a room. Experimenters traveled to random locations, and Swann, without prior knowledge, sketched and described details of these places. In one experiment, he accurately described Science North, a science center with unique architecture, mentioning curved shapes, surrounding vegetation, and even environmental details like cars and a light breeze. Swann's remote viewing seemed connected to specific patterns of brain activity. Research showed that he entered a state of high activity in the right hemisphere, synchronizing with Earth's natural frequencies, such as the 7 Hz Schumann resonance. This alignment suggests that remote viewing is not merely a random phenomenon, but something measurable and, perhaps, trainable. Interestingly, Swann reported that his accuracy varied according to geomagnetic activity. During solar storms or other events disrupting the magnetic field, he faced difficulties in capturing information. This reinforces the idea that remote viewing is intrinsically tied to the stability of Earth's geomagnetic field, and that human brains may be tuned to this force. Remote viewing has profound implications for science and society. If our minds can access information beyond our immediate senses, how could this transform how we learn, communicate, and explore the world? Furthermore, how can we ensure this ability is not used for unethical purposes, such as espionage or manipulation? These challenges accompany any discovery of great impact. Ingo Swann's accomplishments remind us that the human brain is an incredibly powerful tool, still full of mysteries. His contributions to remote viewing open doors to a field of study that continues to intrigue scientists and mind explorers. Reflecting on his work, we are invited to rethink the limits of what we believe is possible. When two people share the same magnetic field, something extraordinary can happen. Research shows that their brains may begin functioning in sync, as if conversing on an invisible level. This phenomenon, studied by scientists like Dr. Michael Persinger, suggests that human connection can transcend words, gestures, and even physical proximity. In a landmark experiment, two volunteers were placed in separate rooms but connected to the same dynamic magnetic field. When a light flashed before one participant, the other's brain registered the same response without direct contact. This brain synchronization provides direct evidence that magnetic fields can mediate invisible communication between minds. This type of connection is not limited to simple stimuli like light. More advanced experiments have shown that complex emotions and ideas can also be shared. When two brains operate in the same magnetic field, their brain waves begin to align, creating an environment conducive to exchanging more sophisticated information. This could explain intuitive feelings between close people, such as when someone feels that another is thinking about them. However, these connections are extremely sensitive to the environment. Small disruptions in the magnetic field, like those caused by electronics or solar storms, can interfere with this alignment. This raises the question of how modernity, with its myriad devices and artificial signals, may be blocking our natural capacity for connection. Are we living in an environment that disconnects us from one another? Shared magnetic fields also have implications for mental and emotional health. Studies suggest that by aligning our brains with natural frequencies, we can reduce stress, improve focus, and even experience greater harmony in our interactions. Imagine the impact of technologies that could artificially recreate these fields to promote well-being and enhance human relationships. Exploring the impact of shared magnetic fields is a journey to rediscover the power of human connection. More than a technological breakthrough, it represents a return to something essential in our nature: the ability to feel connected, even at a distance. With the progress of science, we are only beginning to understand how these phenomena can transform how we live and relate. The relationship between low geomagnetic activity and premonition experiences is fascinating. In numerous documented accounts, people described intense feelings that something was about to happen, and these episodes coincided with periods of calm in the Earth's magnetic field. These phenomena defy traditional logic, but are increasingly explored by scientists seeking to understand how the magnetic environment affects our brains. A classic case involves a woman who, during the night, felt inexplicable anguish and constantly thought of her sister. The next morning, she received news that her sister had died at the exact time she experienced that sensation. These episodes are more common than we imagine and, in many cases, occur during low geomagnetic activity, suggesting an invisible connection facilitated by this stability. During such moments, the human brain seems to operate in a more receptive state. Researchers believe that when noise in the magnetic field decreases, our minds can capture subtle information from the environment or even from other people. This state, often reported in dreams or moments of relaxation, may be a gateway to accessing information beyond our conscious reach. These accounts of premonitions also challenge the idea that we are completely isolated in our mental experiences. They suggest that, at certain moments, there is a kind of resonance between minds connected to the same magnetic field. This reinforces the hypothesis that the human brain functions not only as a receiver but as part of a larger network that shares emotions and information. However, science still struggles to explain these phenomena definitively. Skeptics argue that such experiences may be coincidences or products of selective memory. On the other hand, magnetic field researchers point to recurring patterns that cannot be ignored. This area of research is in its early stages, but the evidence suggests there is more than coincidence in these connections. Cases of premonitions during low geomagnetic activity invite us to reconsider human potential. They point to a profound interaction between mind and environment, suggesting dimensions of consciousness we do not yet fully understand. With more studies, we might turn these mysterious episodes into practical tools for better understanding our relationship with the world and others. The octopus technology is one of the most innovative approaches to exploring the connection between human minds. This device, composed of 8 solenoids creating a complex magnetic field, allows human brains to synchronize even in separate environments. The goal of this technology is to replicate what nature already does. Use the magnetic field as a medium for communication. Experiments conducted with the octopus are a milestone in turning theories into practice. In one experiment, 2 participants were connected to the same artificial magnetic field but positioned in separate rooms. When one observed a stimulus, such as a light flash, the other's brain registered a similar response without direct contact. This demonstrates that shared magnetic fields can create an invisible bridge between minds, enabling unprecedented, nonverbal communication. The potential of this technology is enormous. Imagine using it to create direct mental connections in work teams or even in emotional therapy, allowing patients and therapists to share emotions more directly. However, there are ethical concerns. Who would have access to this technology? And how could we prevent it from being used for manipulation or control? These questions show that developing the octopus must be accompanied by deep discussions about its impacts. Another intriguing aspect of the octopus is its ability to enhance intuitive communication. In one experiment, people trained to use the technology reported heightened sensations of empathy and mutual understanding. This suggests that, beyond transmitting simple information, the device can help align emotions and thoughts, promoting greater harmony among individuals. It is an idea that blends science and psychology promisingly. However, the octopus still faces limitations. The technology depends on a controlled environment where the magnetic field can be carefully adjusted. In everyday situations, where multiple signals interfere, its effectiveness is reduced. Furthermore, there is a long way to go to transform this tool into something accessible to the public. Still, the initial results are impressive and point to a future full of possibilities. The octopus technology shows us that science is getting closer to unraveling the mysteries of the mind and consciousness. It represents a bridge between what is natural and what is human-made, allowing us to explore new territories of human connection. With the advancement of this research, we may be on the brink of a revolution in how we interact with one another. The idea of global mental connectivity is not just a technological innovation, but also a profound transformation of human consciousness. If all brains could align within a shared field, our individual perceptions would expand, and the concept of I and we would change radically. This new collective consciousness would bring immense benefits, but also challenges that we need to consider. Imagine living in a world where all information and emotions were instantly accessible. Empathy would no longer be an exercise, it would become a natural state. Conflicts would be resolved more efficiently because intentions and feelings would be clear. On the other hand, privacy would be almost non-existent, requiring a reevaluation of our values and how we protect our individuality. This transformation would also affect our institutions. Governments, religions, and economic systems, which often depend on exclusive information, would need to adapt. Absolute transparency could end historical inequalities but also create new kinds of conflict. Who would control access to this mental network? And how could we ensure it is not used for manipulation or surveillance? Moreover, collective consciousness could accelerate human progress to unimaginable levels. Ideas and discoveries would be shared instantly, eliminating barriers of time and space. Individual creativity would merge with the collective, creating a unique synergy. However, this could also lead to dangerous uniformity, where the diversity of thoughts and cultures is reduced. Transforming human consciousness requires not only technological advances, but also emotional and ethical maturity. We would need to learn to cope with the weight of accessing other people's pain and anguish while balancing our own emotions in such a connected environment. This new reality would demand collective evolution, both mental and spiritual. Ultimately, the idea of a global collective consciousness challenges us to rethink what it means to be human. This deep connection could be seen as the next step in our evolution, a path to transcend the limitations of individualism. However, as with any major change, success depends on our ability to use this new tool with wisdom and compassion.